All right, magic makers. We are having an interesting conversation today. One, because Nikki has her daughter home sick. So who knows if the little nugget will be like, Mama, or I also have jackhammers behind me. So who knows what's going to happen during this conversation. So buckle up. I am chatting with, I'm going to, I've known her as Nikki Bongi, but Nikki Bongiovani, Grillo. And I'm the person who I meet you with your maiden name, and that's your name forever.
Yes, I know. Okay.
But I'm gonna do my best to say Grillo. And she and I worked together. We just said I think our last competition we did together was 5 years ago. And I'm interviewing former clients just so that people understand what it's like to work with me, what it's like to work with a coach. Because I think there's a lot of like Instagrams type misconceptions out there about what it's like to work with a coach. So Nikki, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me. It's my pleasure to be here.
So, Nikki, tell people a little bit about your background because you have a very unique background that kind of intimidated me when we first started working together.
Okay. Well, first of all, I feel like I'm one of the least intimidating people, but
you you totally are. It was just like when you read your resume and then you meet you.
Yes. So, I was an elite level gymnast and actually started in the sport back when I was about 3 or 4 years old. So it's really all I knew for most of my childhood and young adult years. I was very committed to it. And as you can imagine, I've had several coaches over the course of my life. So, I was committed to gymnastics from the age of 3 till I actually retired from the sport at age 23. So I had a 20-year lifespan in the sport, which is a really long time. With the level of difficulty of the sport and the injuries that can come about, most gymnasts don't get to have that long of a career. So I feel really fortunate that I was able to see out the end of my career, have a really, really good experience. But it was intense. There was a lot. So I became a junior elite gymnast when I was only 9 years old. So you can imagine the level of training and commitment that was going on in my life at the time was probably about 6 hours a day training, six days a week. So that's really all I did. And I mean, I loved it. It's what I wanted to do. My parents didn't push me to do it. They just supported me with all my decisions with the sport. I really wanted to go to the Olympics. So that was my main focus. And yeah, I pushed and worked hard and I got pretty close. I was on the national team for about 4 or 5 years. And I got to compete for USA and go to all the training camps and wear all the swag and got to do all that cool stuff and train with some pretty famous people that you've probably heard of before. And then I competed in college. I was a Division I scholarship athlete. I chose to go to the Penn State University. I was an Lion there. And I got to be a team captain there and have a really wonderful experience with gymnastics there, which is very interesting. And I will add some of this in later, but prior to college, elite level gymnastics is very strict. Serious, and it's a one-man show. It's not much of a team sport. You are in it for yourself.
Yeah.
And at that level, it's not a lot of fun. It's a lot of work. So when I went to college, I got a whole new set of coaches and a whole new perspective on gymnastics because it turned into a team sport. And they really emphasize not only they want you to excel as an athlete and a student, they also want you to have fun doing your sport. So I had to kind of relearn my sport once I got to college because I did not know how to do it for fun.
Right. And I like what you said that because it's like I think a lot of athletes, it's you just like have these like blinders on and it's just like, eat, sleep, train, sleep, train. And then you come into like, which I think is refreshing that they're like, there should be a sprinkle of fun here. Like it shouldn't just be like, eat, sleep, train, like get to know your teammates, not because you're just sitting next to them on the beam waiting for the next person to go, like know them.
Exactly. And I feel like it really made a difference in how I think back. I'm 41 now. So that was the first half of my life and it made me a lot of who I am today. But I feel like my perspective on my experience is so different than how it could have gone the wrong way. I could have now in my life towards the sport, but it kind of turned it around and I saw that the sport was so much more than even what I had experienced at such a high level. There was more to it. There was more about what it could do for you as a whole person rather than just being, having achievements under your belt.
Right. And I like that. And I think, when we first started working together, you were coming out of that sport, but you
Mhm.
still like, I mean, it imprinted on you that like drive, discipline, do. And,
Yeah,
you've been doing it for your whole life. So you're like, I don't know how to change.
exactly. So that's part of, where you came in. So that was a whole nother learning curve. So, I had my elite gymnastics career, my collegiate gymnastics career, which was still very intense. And I also carried with me a lot of that intensity from my elite level years that I couldn't shake.
Yeah.
I was stuck in that place of, if I'm not suffering for this achievement, I'm not working hard enough. And that was the only space I knew how to live in or train in, is that I had to push myself so that I was suffering to feel like I was worthy of the achievement. Do you know what I
And
mean?
and it's so funny because it's like that suffering and worthiness, it transmutes every sport, especially,
Yes,
and I feel women feel it more, but I'm sure guys have the same level of pressure to be the best.
for
But I
sure.
also feel like women, we just like, we wear that suit of armor, like we got to suffer. All right.
Mhm.
Who else is suffering with me? Like, I only had a carrot today. What'd you have? And we just kind of
Exactly.
feel like, well, someone's like, well, I had a carrot and a cucumber. You're like, you had a cucumber? Oh,
You're not working hard enough.
right. And
Yeah.
so I feel like so many women can identify with that. Like, even if you weren't an elite athlete, that has like dripped down in our society that if I don't like crawl through glass or am I
Hmm.
left bleeding from the eye, I didn't diet hard enough. And my
Yeah.
weight loss isn't worthy because
Hmm.
it felt easy.
Yeah. And I feel like it's transcending across our culture as a whole. So you
Mm,
take anybody, people, maybe someone's not an athlete, but they put that same approach into their career. If they're not if they're not staying up till 11, 12 o'clock still working
oh,
their job, then they're not working hard enough. They're not working weekends, and it's just become, glorified to be
yes.
suffering and busy and focused or dedicated towards something.
100%. I absolutely, for those of you guys who are listening to this, like, hopefully you're like, I know that shift is hard. I will be the first person to admit, like, I'm, card carrying member of the suffering club. But when you make that shift to the other side, you're going to look at yourself and you're just like, damn, I did all
Yeah.
of that.
Hmm.
And you're like, for what? Like, there was no Mercedes at the end of the line. I mean, I wish there was a Mercedes
No,
at the end of the line.
absolutely not. Nope.
So for you, you're right. So, you did all this elite stuff. You spent time with the Carolis.
Hmm.
You go to college and you're like, what's next?
Yeah, for sure. So that was a scary place to be in. I'm not gonna
Mm,
lie. I struggled a lot because so much of my identity and my self-worth was tied into gymnastics because I didn't really know myself without it.
yeah.
So, there was some dark days trying to figure that out. I remember my last competition and taking off my grips after my bar routine. And I walked over to this giant like garbage can in the arena and I just tossed them in. And I had this moment and I was like, well, there it is. Now what? Who am I without this?
Yeah.
And it was a journey to get there. I feel so fortunate and lucky to have stumbled upon you and Kathy Savage Fitness because I feel like you guys were a beacon of hope for me that I could utilize the best parts of me from my gymnastics career and move them into a whole nother career for myself or hobby or just something that I could take all of those good parts that I didn't want to lose because gymnastics was over and just move forward into something else that could also fill my heart, you know?
Right. Exactly. And I think for many people, like the whole thought of like fitness competitions,
Hmm.
they, most people think like, oh, you have to be an ex gymnast or you have to be an ex something. But I think what you just hit the nail on the head is like, there's a lot of us who were former athletes that you're
Hmm.
like, what do we do now? Like, what do we do
Yeah.
next? And, or
Hmm.
people who are gym rats who are like, okay, so I go to the gym all the time. Like, what's next? Like, what do I do? How do I push myself to that next level? How do I just, take all of these skills I'm working on over and over again and apply it to something?
Exactly. And a lot of times you just need somewhere to put that energy. And
Mm,
I'm a firm believer in always having goals set,
yeah,
big, small, daily, long-term, short-term. I don't really know how to live any other way. It keeps me going.
right.
And sometimes the goals are super tiny. might be to drink a certain amount of water in a day,
Right.
and then other times my goals have been to win a national championship. So, they vary, but at the same time, I think, anybody can utilize that same approach. And whether you're a gym rat or you used to be a dancer or you played soccer, everybody has characteristics that they can use in the world of fitness or training for, a better physique or better health or something like that. Everybody has that in them.
Right, exactly. So when you started working with myself in Kathy's Side of Fitness, like what were you looking to improve or achieve?
Well, if I'm being honest, I'm a go big or go home kind of gal. So it changed over the years. I'll give you that. So when I first started, it was gung ho, world champion, Miss Fitness America, Miss Fitness, world, whatever the highest level I could get to, that's where I was headed. But I had a lot to learn. So just because I was a great athlete in gymnastics didn't mean I was going to be great at fitness. It doesn't just translate over.
Yeah.
Right. So, in particular with fitness, in elite level gymnastics, you never smile. You could get kicked out of the gym for smiling.
Right.
Let alone, incorporating facial expressions in a routine. I mean, that alone for me was probably one of the most difficult things to do.
Yeah.
And the other part was like learning how to focus on my physique. So I never really had to do that. I just trained for my sport, for ability. I never, ate or trained to look a certain way. I ate and trained to be able to do certain things.
Right.
So to add that component in it, I really enjoyed that because I got an education on my body and nutrition and how it affects it, from a standpoint of energy, input and output, to how it makes your body look and feel. Like I didn't have that education. I just did what I was told to do in gymnastics. And you guys really opened my eyes and you taught me, because it wasn't just you telling me, hey, eat this, don't eat that, eat at this time. Like there was an education behind it. Like why eat that food? Why eat this time? What, all that stuff was really valuable for me. And I got to tell you, I went on to be a personal trainer, and a lot of it was, due to you guys inspiring me, because I saw how many lives you were changing and how impactful it was on my life. Just how much I learned from you. So, in the beginning, I would say I was out to win a championship.
Right.
I was competing for a good 15 years with you guys. So by the last time we did our last show together, I had my daughter, and it was about health.
Yeah.
I was after health. And you know what? I came in second at Miss Fitness America that year. And I had my best physique, my best showing, my best experience I had ever had. And my goal was health rather than the trophy. So I'd like to say I matured over my career with fitness, so
It's funny that you say that, because I think all of us go into anything we do because we're searching for, you were looking for a title, because that's all you knew. Like, that's from the very youngest age. If you didn't hit a certain number on that podium, then you went home.
Right.
You had to move on to the next level. So that's all you knew. And then I think, a lot of the women I've worked with, before baby and after baby, after you have your baby, you're like, okay, I know what it was like to grow this baby. All the things I took to make sure that my little nugget came out happy and healthy. And I don't want to go back to that place.
Yes.
You were like, plus I need to have some energy, because my kid don't know that 2:00 in the morning is when everyone should be sleeping.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. It's a different approach. Like post baby, it's not about you anymore.
Right.
You also don't have all the time in the world. So you got to be efficient with what time you have, and you got to, pick your plan and stick to it. And, I want to say my approach was more, I wanted to be an inspiration.
Right.
At that point, I wanted to show other women that they can do it, and you don't have to suffer through it. I mean, my daughter was 1.5 years old when I stepped back on stage. At least half of my prep, I was nursing.
Right.
Which is an interesting, concept that you wouldn't normally tie together, a woman nursing and, prepping for a show, because there's this belief that if you're prepping for a show, your calories are low, you're starving, you're training twice a day, you're doing hours of cardio. And I think that's just a testament to you guys that you meet people where they're at, right? So, you know, whatever somebody's going through, and you didn't tell me, hey, you need to stop nursing so you can compete.
Right.
Like, no, like we just kept my calories where they needed to be. My nutrition was where it needed to be. And if anybody knows anything about nursing, you have to eat a lot of food.
Right. Or you're dry as a bone.
Yeah. And then you throw on top of that a workout regimen and training a fitness routine, you know, you need a lot of fuel.
Yeah.
And I always tell people that, you know, prepping for a show or even for like your dream physique, it's not, if you do it the right way, you're actually eating more food than you've probably ever eaten in your life. You're more satisfied and you're not cranky. You know, like you don't have, it doesn't have to be that way. And I think, you know, I never would have believed that 10 years ago. If you told me, Nikki, someday you're going to pop out a kid, be nursing and prep for a show at the same time, I would be like, yeah, you're crazy. That's not happening because I need to be suffering and starving to do well.
Yeah. And, you know, and the one thing that, you know, a lot of the moms who came back to me after getting ready for a show is that I was like, your kid comes first. Like, I want to protect your kid and your energy, because I know like your kid doesn't understand that you're tired. Like you can't be like, you kind of, you know, your daughter was a year old, so she kind of understood talking, but like you could, to a newborn, you can't be like, mommy's tired and mommy has to go to the gym. So you're going to go to bed at 6 o'clock and you're going to wake up at 6 o'clock. Okay.
Right.
I mean, like every parent's like, how do you do that? Because I want that
exactly
same thing. And it's like, I think, you know, as you, like you said, mature, you learn that one, suffering sucks. And you're just like, I just can't anymore. And I don't know. I really wish like having these conversations, or I wish everyone didn't have to hit that wall before they realize suffering sucks. And I'm hoping that the more I talk to people like yourself and the more I just talk to other people, they can hear like, yeah, okay, so I can have something more than a grape a day and a cup of coffee. Yes. Like, you know, depending on your goal. Right. And I mean, even now you hear from the, US gymnastics, like they're not starving their people anymore. Like they've learned, they've matured that like, you know what, I can't starve my athletes anymore because they're not going to perform as well as if they are well fed.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I'm so glad that you brought that up because it needed to change a long time ago. And, you know, those girls are at such impressionable ages. I mean, I'm so lucky to have come out of it as I did.
Yes.
I know a lot of girls that still struggle to this day, and they're adults now, you know, and you know, my advice to people is if you're in that suffering phase where you like, it makes you feel good and you need it to like feel like you're moving forward or you're working towards something, that it took me years to get out of it. Like you guys like hammered it home with me, but I would still do extra cardio. Try to do things to like push myself ahead more, but in the end, when I followed the protocol the way it should have been, it felt easy. And there was a sense of peace and ease with me into that last competition that I did. And it felt great. It was so fun because I didn't suffer along the way. The day of the show, I wasn't depleted. I was eating. I had so much energy. And I remember that now all the time in my life and with my clients that I work with now. I mean, I'm always telling them, you know, my experience of going through it through suffering and going through it with ease.
Yes.
And the route of ease, I ended up with a better physique at the end of it.
Right. Because you're not always stressed out, like worrying about the next thing. Yeah. And so, you know, we've kind of danced around it, but I'm going to ask the direct question. So like, as a result of, you know, saying, you know, even though I pushed you to like, just listen, just do the easy stuff, just do the easy route. Like, as a result, like, how do you think you've like, that's like grown you as a personal trainer, but also grown you as a person when it comes to, you know, maintaining your health?
So, you know, I don't think that I would be comfortable in my skin now if I didn't go through that with you. I needed that hard lesson. I needed somebody saying to me like, no, this is right. This is right for you. You're going to get where you need to go. You just have to trust the process. Trust me, trust me, trust me.
Right.
You know, nowadays, like I can easily maintain a really happy physique without going to the gym 6 days a week. I have, you know, a 6-year-old and a 4-year-old who require a lot of my energy. I own several businesses with my brother. So like I'm a busy lady.
Mm-hmm.
And I once thought that if I couldn't exercise every day and be on a
Yeah.
strict diet, I would never be happy with my body.
Mm-hmm.
So I've learned to have grace with myself. I've learned that, you know, day to day, it fluctuates. My schedule fluctuates. The amount of effort I can put in towards my physique or my nutrition fluctuates. But I have such a good foundation now. And the bar is not through the ceiling. The bar
Right.
is here's my happy, and I know how to live in that happy.
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't
Yeah.
need to be stage ready every day. And at one point in my life, I'm telling you that I needed to be lean and mean to feel good about myself.
Yes. Yeah.
And
You're not
you know, I
alone.
feel good if I have energy now. I feel good if I have a good night's sleep. I feel good if I can move my body most days of the week. You know, those are all little wins, and I've learned to appreciate those, and those are what keep me moving forward. You know, that's a win for me. If I can move my body and get some healthy food in me and have energy for my kids and whatever activities I want to do, then that's great. And that's what I'm after.
Yeah.
It's a peaceful way to live, for sure.
I love the peaceful, like, and just energy, right? Like energy, like who, when you're just walking around like just like a zombie, that just sucks.
It does suck. It is. I've been there, you know, and it's those days where people are like, wow, you look tired today, you know, like, and then
Right.
you're like, oh, you know, it's written all over my face. And I mean, I'm sucking today, you know. Those are the
Right.
days I despise, because I know it doesn't have to be that way, you
Yeah,
know.
exactly. 100%, 100%. So what would you say to someone who is considering working with me as a coach?
I would say, I would say if you're thinking about it, then there's a reason for that. You
Yeah.
know, you're being called to that.
Mm,
It's being brought into your universe for a reason. I would say don't hesitate and jump, because you don't have anything to lose, right? You've got nothing to lose by trying. And the other thing I would say is, you know, you're no BS. So, you know, I say that you got me out of my suffering and made me kind of do things in an easier route than I was expected, but you're by no means a pushover of a coach. You're not going to just tell me what I want to hear. You know what I'm saying? So, you know, expect tough love, I would say, but in the best way possible, because every time I've worked with you, I can't even tell you how many things I've learned and how much you've opened my eyes to different possibilities for myself that I didn't even see. You know, so I think just having an open mind, knowing that you're going to get customized, like somebody who really cares about where you're at and where you want to go, because that's hard to find, especially
mm,
nowadays. You can go online and get a program anywhere, but it's probably the same program as the last person that signed up and the person before that. You know, you need something that is customized and really thought about when it comes to what your needs are, and I would say you're the best person for that.
ah, thank you. Yeah, it's hard. Like the tough love part is hard because then I think because I've had like coaches like you had that like they aren't gonna be like, rubbing your back and like that's okay. They're gonna be like, yeah, you stumbled. And
Yep.
next time we do it, how are we gonna fix that?
Yep.
And that's the only way it's been imprinted in me. Like that's how my coaches were always to me. And I was like, okay, like, and then
That's how you coach.
that's how you coach. But then I've also seen those coaches who are like, everything's okay. And I'm like, but did you learn anything? Like
Mm-hmm.
the only way to get better is to learn something from the experience, not be like, you stubbed your toe. It's okay. Like, no, you stubbed your toe. How are we going to fix it?
Right. Right. Yeah, I think a blend of the two worlds is perfect. You know what I
And
mean?
I've simmered down from my youth with
Mm-hmm.
maturity, but I still feel like I know I only learn if you ask me a question. Like, okay, what are we going to do different?
Mm-hmm. Right.
And, you might not be, scraping the ice off your ass at the time I ask you that question, but
Yeah.
I'll wait a good 12 hours and be like, so what are we going to do different?
Absolutely. But like that comes down to that education piece that I was talking about, that,
Right.
it's not just following a plan on a piece of paper. There's a learning curve to any time you try a new venture or take on a big goal or something that's important to you. And, you're there to guide.
Yeah.
right? So,
Yeah.
you know, if you're going to hire a coach, whether it's Kim or anybody else, or, you know, you're not in the driver's seat anymore.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Exactly.
Like, it's you're the expert. Like, I'm coming to you because you're the expert, not because I'm
Right.
the expert. I'm coming to you because I want you to tell me what to do. So, you know, having that open mind and that approach is important, I think.
Yeah.
And just being open to, like, maybe trying things you haven't tried before.
Yeah. Just, you know, having the courage to do things differently, and, you know,
Absolutely.
and you know, ask questions. Like, I love people who ask me questions, because like sometimes you're like, you never heard of a study that I just read, or you never thought of like that approach to whatever it is that we're doing. I'm like,
Yeah.
that's how I learned, you know, like my very first coach, like I would do it. And then as I'm doing it, I'm like, okay, so this is what I'm experiencing. Like, yeah, that's what you should be experiencing. So it was like a give and a take. It was like a back and forth conversation.
Yes, for sure. And it should be, because you're a team,
Yeah.
right? Like, I always say that, like, a client and a coach, or an athlete and a coach, you're a team together. So it shouldn't be a one-way street. It should be, you should be able to ask questions and learn along the way. I think, you know, as an athlete, you're the one having the physical experiences from it, but the plan and the effort towards getting to that goal, it's team.
Yeah, 100%. You like, that's exactly what it is. It's a team approach, and like as a, you know, our experience was virtual. You know, we saw each other a handful of times a year, and so in order for me to have a experience with you, you have to ask questions. Because if we were in person, I would be like, okay, you would do something like, oh, how Nikki, how does that feel? Nikki, this, and you would talk
You'd
back.
engage. Yes.
Where
yes.
a lot of people, I think coaching is this, like, you know, do these 5 things and you're going to be successful. And it's like, I'm going to give you these 5 things, but I'm going to be like, how did it work out? Because
right, we're going to see how it went, and everybody's different, right? So, like,
right.
what works for me might not work for the next person. A lot of it's trial and error, and just, you know what you know, but like, let's try it. Let's try this. Oh, you didn't like how that felt? Let's try something else. You know, there's always adjustments being made. So it's not a
Always
cookie cutter
adjustments.
plan.
Exactly. So Nikki, thank you so much for taking this time with me. And I so appreciate you. I so appreciate the relationship that we have built like over the years, and that we still can, you know, reach out and connect with each other.
Yeah, well, thank you for having me on. I'll tell you that I'm forever grateful to you, because you made such a big impact on my life. You know, not only during my years of competing, but I've taken what you've taught me, and I still carry it with me. And, you know, I wouldn't raise my kids the way I do. You know, it's changed my approach with them, with food and nutrition and exercise. I mean, there's really not a day that goes by that I don't use some part of what I learned from working with you. So I thank you. I am very grateful to have you in my life.
Especially raising a little lady in this day and age.
Yes, for sure. Yep. So thank you for everything.
Thank you so much. That does mean a lot to me. So thanks so much for taking the time. And magic makers, like, listen up, right? You don't have to struggle. You don't have to suffer. It can feel easy. And if it feels easy, it's not because you're doing it wrong.
Exactly. Yes. Huge point. Huge point. Doesn't mean you're doing it wrong.